Browns getting ready for a Monday night game on the West Coast against the 3-0 San Francisco 49ers. Time to welcome in Mac Robinson from the Orange and Brown Report to go a little more in depth on this. Mac, as always, we appreciate the time. What about that Browns offense? A lot of folks said finally after seeing the performance against the Ravens in Baltimore last week.
Yeah, taking a look at the way that the Browns offense was able to perform, it really reminded me a lot more of those last 8 games that you saw from the Browns last season compared to the first 3 that you saw from this season. And honestly, you were able to really see the offense really get going and utilizing some of those short, quick passes to help get Baker-Mayfield into a rhythm. And that you ended up seeing Jarvis-Landry take advantage, as well as Ricky Seals-Jones getting on the outside.
And what about the line blocking for Nick-Chubb? I mean, that had to be the most welcome sight, was running the football, and Nick-Chubb had a lot of room to run.
Yes, he did. Especially on that 88-yard touchdown run. But in addition to that, too, I mean, you also saw that quick timing passing also open up the rest of the offensive line compared to what you saw early on in the season, where it was a lot of long developing plays, where Baker-Mayfield had a setback in the pocket, ended up rolling out to the outside. And so because of that, you ended up seeing more open space, and the defense had to respect that passing game. So therefore, you saw Nick Chubb having a lot more room to run, especially against a tough run defense that the Ravens had coming into that game.
Well, and you look over at the 49ers, who they will play. They are unbeaten on the season, and they are third in total defense, giving up under 285 yards a game. So this is, again, a very good defense that the Browns will have the challenge of going against.
Yeah, and especially that offensive line will have their work cut out for them, because you look at that defensive line that the 49ers have tried to build up. You see DeForest Buckner, who was a top 10 pick in 2016. You've seen Eric Armstead there as well. And obviously, us Ohio State fans know Nick Bosa, obviously the number 2 overall pick this year, playing on the edge for the 49ers and really getting a chance to see that defense. And also, you see a lot of pop from that linebacking crew. Fred Warner, at that middle linebacker spot adds a lot of pop. And so if the Browns need to get this going, you're going to end up seeing a lot of that quick timing passing, as well as the run game and the reliance on that early on.
Is there an area that, you've kind of went over a little bit of the 49ers defense. Is there an area that you think, boy, the Browns might be able to exploit, this area?
I think the defensive backfield, because that was the one thing, is that outside of, obviously, you have the big name in Richard Sherman, but outside of Richard Sherman, you see a lot of unproven talent. Jason Verrett was brought in the offseason, but he was dealing with a little bit of injury issues even when he came into the team. So at the same time, you might see a little bit of an advantage for some of the lesser guys, where you have Jarvis-Landry, who's still in concussion protocol, but he might be able to come out for the game. But at the same time, you have Rashard Higgins, who might be able to come back. You also have Damian Radley and even Kadril Hodge. And not to mention, too, people forget Antonio Callaway is coming off suspension this week, so you could see him get some play early on.
The other thing that you had to feel pretty good about is Baker-Mayfield played probably his best game of the season. There were still some things that he probably wanted back, but it was good to see him look, as you mentioned, like the Baker-Mayfield that you saw the last 8 weeks of last season, as opposed to what you saw earlier this year.
Yeah, and I think that you can attribute that to the fact that, like I said, the quick timing passing, Baker-Mayfield is a rhythm quarterback, where if he's able to get into a rhythm early on, if he's able to get a few of those quick passes out and quick completions, then he's going to end up having a pretty good day. And so for Baker-Mayfield, a lot of the long developing plays, it kind of put him into a tough situation, tough spot. So for him, being able to rattle off a few of those quick completions to Landry, quick completion to Ricky Seals-Jones, and some of these other guys as well, it also ends up helping Baker-Mayfield in the long run throughout this game.
Now, the 49ers are coming off of a bye. They are one of the undefeated teams in the NFL, only 3-0, and to be honest, the Browns will be their toughest test. They've beaten the Bucks, the Bengals, and the Steelers, and we've kind of seen those teams. How do you think the Browns go into this confidence-wise? I mean, they put 40 on the board against a pretty good defense.
Well, especially too the last 2 weeks. I mean, you've seen, despite the loss to the Rams, they looked pretty impressive to me, just because of the fact that they were able to still hang in that ball game with the defense, which I know we'll get to here in a bit. But at the same time, I look at the way that this team has kind of carried itself, and I feel like they were a little bit humbled early on in the season, obviously losing to the Titans, and then you end up having that close but no cigar game against the Rams. And so for this team, going up against Baltimore, being able to take care of business in the way that they did, I think they're looking to make a statement on Monday night, and especially too throughout their time since the Hugh Jackson firing, and even since Baker-Mayfield came on, this team has produced in primetime ball games. So I do think that they're going to be able to come out and make a statement on Monday night.
Mac Robinson of the Orange and Brown Report. Stick around with us. We got to take a quick time out. So when we return, Mac and I will talk a little bit about that defense for the Browns and the offense of the 49ers.